War is as old as human history itself. As mankind has evolved, so have the tactics of war. Welcome to Globe Z, and today's topic is hybrid warfare. There is no universally accepted definition of hybrid warfare, which leads to some debate whether the term is useful at all. Some argue that the term is too abstract, and only the latest term to refer to irregular methods to counter a conventionally superior force. The abstractness of the term means that it is often used as a catch-all term for all non-linear threats. Hybrid warfare is a military strategy which employs political warfare and blends conventional warfare, irregular warfare, and cyber warfare. The US Joint Forces Command defines a hybrid threat as any adversary that simultaneously and adaptively employs a tailored mix of conventional irregular terrorism and criminal means or activities in the operational battlespace. In a nutshell, hybrid warfare is the combination of multiple conventional and non-conventional tools of warfare. Modes and indicators of hybrid warfare. Conventional capabilities. This includes joint combined arms maneuver warfare, which in simple words mean coordinated use of combined forces, that is armies, fleets, and aircraft, along with the use of special forces. Irregular tactics. This includes asymmetric warfare and guerrilla tactics, such as insurgencies. Terrorism. This includes acts of violence to spread fear and anxiety. It employs unpredictable violence against symbolic targets to create a sense of insecurity among the masses. Criminal activities. Use of gang networks for smuggling and illicit transfer of advanced weapons. Political means. This includes use of political means to compel an opponent to do one's will. Economic means. This includes the use or threat to use economic means against a country in order to weaken its economy, thereby reducing its military and political power. Information means. This includes hacking and cyber attacks by an opponent on another state and spreading false information or fake news using mainstream media and social media to create confusion. Social means. This includes exploitation of religious or ethnic fault lines within a state to create chaos and disintegration. Understanding hybrid warfare and the concept of MPECI and PMESII. Hybrid warfare actor can synchronize its military, political, economic, civilian, informational instruments of power, which are also known as MPECI, to vertically and horizontally escalate a series of specific activities to create effects against the target vulnerabilities, which are political, military, economic, social, infrastructural, and informational, or also known as PMESII. Hybrid warfare actor can either vertically escalate by increasing the intensity of one or many of the instruments of power, or horizontally escalate through synchronizing multiple instruments of power to create effects greater than through vertical escalation alone. So this gives the opponent an undefined battle space and more options to use against a target. Why states opt for hybrid warfare strategy? First, hybrid warfare uses a wider set of MPECI tools and techniques that one usually will not look at in traditional threat assessments. Second, it targets vulnerabilities across societies in ways that we do not traditionally think about. For example, the deep sectarian, ethnic, and economic divisions in Syrian society were exploited by both Iran and Kingdom of Saudi Arabia with a view of achieving their strategic objectives. Third, it synchronizes its means in novel ways. For example, by only looking at the different instruments of power an adversary possesses, one cannot necessarily predict how and to what degree they might be synchronized to create certain effects. Thus, the functional capabilities of a hybrid warfare adversary, although important, will not necessarily provide the right information to understand the problem. For example, in parallel with setting up secret military training camps, ISIL or Daesh established missionary offices spreading their Salafi message in local communities, as well gathering information on all social structures. This information was utilized to target political and military opposition. Fourth, hybrid warfare intentionally exploits ambiguity, creativity, and our understanding of war to make attacks less visible. This is due to the fact that they can be tailored to stay below certain detection and response thresholds, including international legal thresholds, thus hampering the decision process and making it harder to react to a hybrid warfare attack. For example, presence of Russia's little green men in Ukraine. Fifth, relatedly and arguably more than conventional types of warfare, a hybrid warfare campaign may not be seen until it is already well underway, with damaging effects having already begun manifesting themselves and degrading a target's capability to defend itself. The Grizmov Doctrine, a blueprint for hybrid warfare in today's time. In February 2013, General Valery Grizmov, Russia's Chief of General Staff, comparable to the US Chairman of Joint Chiefs of Staff, published a 2,000-word article titled "The Value of Science is in the Foresight" in the weekly Russian trade paper Military Industrial Courier. Grizmov took tactics developed by the Soviets, blended them with strategic military thinking about total war, and laid out a new theory of modern warfare, one that looks more like hacking an enemy's society than attacking it head-on. He wrote, "The very rules of war have changed. The role of non-military means of achieving political and strategic goals has grown, and in many cases they have exceeded the power of force of weapons in their effectiveness. All this is supplemented by a military means of concealed character." Russia applied the Grizmov Doctrine recently in 2014 during the Ukrainian crisis, where Russia used a combination of unconventional and non-conventional military tactics. Russia waged political warfare on Ukraine, exploiting the ethnic fault lines between Russian-speaking people and Ukrainian-speaking people in the regions of Crimea, Donetsk, and Luhansk. Russian propaganda waves incited the Russian-speaking ethnic groups, which forms 67.5% of the population in Crimea, 74.4% population of Donetsk, and 68.8% in Luhansk, to form pro-Russian rebel groups, which started to demand independence from Ukraine. This led towards clashes with the Ukrainian government, and Russia exploited this ambiguity by sending in the little green men, who were Russian soldiers wearing unmarked uniforms, to support the anti-government rebels. Russia waged a cyber war on Ukraine through its hacking groups known as the Cyber Berkut and APT-28 or Fancy Bear. Cyber Berkut hacked into Ukraine's information ministry and released fabricated photos and images calling Ukrainian generals war criminals. Furthermore, it hacked into Ukraine's national grid system, causing damage to the infrastructure. A Russian cyber weapon called Snake, or Ouroboros, was reported to have created havoc on Ukrainian government systems. The Snake toolkit began spreading into Ukrainian computer systems in 2010. It performed computer network exploitation as well as highly sophisticated computer network attacks. The Russian ADB-28 or Fancy Bear used Android malware to target Ukrainian army's rocket forces and artillery. They distributed an infected version of an Android app whose original purpose was to control targeting data for the D-30 Howitzer artillery. The app used by Ukrainian officers was loaded with X-agent spyware and posted online on military forums. This app was used by Ukrainian officers, and thus Russian forces gained the position of Ukrainian artillery. This led to the destruction of 15 to 20% of these artillery pieces. Thus Russia synchronized many instruments of power, or MPECI, against Ukraine's vulnerabilities, or PMESII, and achieved its strategic goals, waging hybrid warfare, and annexed Crimea to maintain strategic balance against the EU. Due to its effectiveness, many states are developing new methods of hybrid warfare, which outlines a grim future for us all. In part 2 of this video, we will discuss hybrid warfare in Pakistan's context and review the Indian Cold Start Doctrine.